Board meeting today, January 16th at 9:31. We're going to call the meeting to order. I want to thank everyone for coming out, and for those who may be watching, thank you for tuning in to watch your government in action. We have all of our board members are here this morning. Good morning to each of you.
Good morning.
Our executive director and staff, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Cox, do we have any agenda modifications?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that takes us to our presentations. And I understand that we are recognizing someone today who I understand he may not be with us.
No, not today.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
But we want to provide a recognition to Mr. Camden. My script says Cam. Camden Whitlock, on behalf of the Tallahassee Community Redevelopment Agency Board and the CRA staff. We would like to acknowledge and recognize the service of Mr. Cam Whitlock, the CRA Volunteer Downtown District Development Review Commission. Cam Whitlock served in a voluntary capacity on the Tallahassee Community Redevelopment Agency Downtown Redevelopment Commission from 2020 to 2024, which was one full 3-year term and an additional year of a second term. Cam Whitlock is the founding principal of Whitlock & Lewis, a well-known and respected local architectural firm. Over the years, Mr. Whitlock provided substantial input and assistance with the various CRA programs, policy development, redevelopment, and funding scenarios. So on behalf of the CRA board, the CRA staff, and Tallahassee citizens, Cam Whitlock will be provided a token of appreciation.
Woo-hoo. All right.
It's heavy too.
Wow.
And we wanted to publicly thank Cam Whitlock for his voluntary service, even though he was unable to attend today's CRA board meeting. Thank you for assisting the CRA and the community with fostering public and private partnerships to achieve community goals. Please join us in a round of applause for Mr. Whitlock. Mr. Whitlock, Mr. Cox will have your hardware.
Yes, we will get it to him.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Moving on to the advisory committee's update, 3.02, Greater Frenchtown Southside Citizen Advisory Committee update. I see we have our chair in the house this morning. Welcome on board, Mr. Roderick.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, Vice Chair, and CRA members. Today, I want to go over our meeting we had, our special meeting we had last week in regards to the the Railroad Square redevelopment project. We as a committee offered the recommendation to not purchase the property, which was option 7, and to work with a specific group, which is the Railroad Square Revitalization Cohort, to look at potential public-private partnerships. And this is all contingent upon the owner of the property, the Kays, willing to accept this recommendation from us to move forward with the property. But my understanding, there is an email that was received or it was sent from regarding an offer on the appraised value of the property that offered a $6.5 million offer, and they're willing to work with the cohort group to include all of their ask into that parcel, those parcels there in Railroad Square. And the parcels includes, the development includes apartments on the upper levels as well as retail and arts and public spaces on the lower levels. And that's my report.
Thank you very much. And
Madam Chair.
Thank you to your committee for the work that you've done on this matter and on this issue. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one clarifying question. I believe you said option 7.
Yes.
We have an option 5. Can I read it to you, and can you tell me if, because we don't have an option 7. Do not acquire any of the 6.8 acres from Railroad Square and direct CRA staff to work with the Railroad Square revitalization cohort to formulate a funding deal and return to the CRA with a proposal. And that, in parentheses, says that that was the CAC recommendation.
Correct. So your
Okay.
option 5 was our option 7.
Okay, I
Apologies.
figured that was the
Yes.
case. I just wanted to
Yes.
confirm. Thank
Yes.
you.
The other options were acquiring the smaller parcels and the original parcel to 6.5 acres.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chair?
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Great report.
Moving on to Downtown Redevelopment Commission update. I understand the chair is not going to be able to be with us.
He's not going to be able to make it with us today.
Okay, all right. So we will look forward to a report from the Downtown Redevelopment Commission committee at the next meeting. Moving on to public update, public comment on any agenda items. 4.01, do we have any public speakers?
We do, Madam Chair. We have, at this time, 4 speakers on agenda items. We have Gabriella Simpson, Terry Galloway, Josh Johnson, as I understand it, that want to present as a group, and then a card separately for Gordon McGill. If you
We
would,
could go ahead and call our first speaker.
Gabrielle Simpson, your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, Gabrielle Simpson, 650 Railroad Square. I just wanted to start by saying that we thank you for your continued support on this endeavor. We are especially thankful for the property appraisal, which has proved extremely helpful in our planning. To keep focused on these revitalization efforts, we're in support of option number 5, recommended by the Greater Frenchtown CAC, directing your staff to continue working with our cohort in formulating a funding proposal and returning to you guys to present that. Our cohort has continued to work on potential funding and partnership options and is currently addressing feedback from the CAC, the mayor, and the CRA staff for a proposal that we'd like to bring back to you. We're open to speaking with any interested parties who are interested in joining our revitalization efforts. And just again, we thank you for your support throughout all of this. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Our next speaker, Terry Galloway.
Yes, hi, I'm Terry Galloway. I live at 1402 South Meridian on the south side. This seems to be the morning for thank yous, so I would like to thank you for supporting the feasibility study for Railroad Square, because it gave those of us who are fighting to save and revitalize Tallahassee's only and central arts district vital information that we've been using to formulate our future proposal. I want to say, too, that Stephen Cox and the members of the CAC have been absolutely wonderful, and they've been helping us to understand the bureaucratic intricacies that we're going to need to address. And the majority of the CAC, they've been really sympathetic to this cause. And so we thank them for supporting option 5, and we really hope that you will support option 5 as well. But again, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker we have is Josh Johnson. Name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Josh Johnson, 650-3 Railroad Square. I'll keep this really short, kind of like Terry. We just want to thank everybody, especially Mr. Cox, Mr. Norvell, Ms. Williams, members of the CAC, this body. It's just a coincidence that I'm dressed as a priest today as I come asking for this blessing, but we look forward to working further with whoever we can to bring this thing home. And so I hope that we can do that together. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Next speaker, Gordon McGill. Name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Gordon McGill, 2106 Julie Naney, Indian Head Acres. Good morning, commissioners. I've attended all the meetings, all the public meetings related to Railroad Square, and I'm very encouraged that we've come this far without acrimony to arrive at an option 7, which allows the cohorts to collaborate with the city, with the CRA, and establishing a plan going forward. I'd like to read a couple of things. According to the U.S., and this is from 2015 report, according to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, arts and cultural industries contributed $763.6 billion to the economy, amounting to 4.2% of gross domestic product in 2015. That was 10 years ago. It's got to be more. Moreover, it has been shown that for every dollar invested in the arts, there is a direct $7 return on local economies. The source is Americans for the Arts 2018. I would like to ask you to take a look at the Broward Center for Performing Arts, which was established in 2012, and subsequently an outgrowth of the Broward Center for Performing Arts came the Riverwalk Arts and Entertainment District, which was a sort of an area, I guess, undeveloped of warehouses, shops, boutiques along the New River in Fort Lauderdale. That has since been consolidated into an arts and entertainment district, which attracts over 1.5 million visitors a year to Fort Lauderdale. And it's publicly owned, publicly funded, and is managed by a nonprofit. It has quite a number of local major business sponsors annually. Lastly, I would just like to read from an article that I published in Tallahassee Democrat, January 3rd. My takeaway from all three hearings is that the issue of a public city-owned arts district is first a people's priority. It is not a political contest to pit one neighborhood's needs against another's, nor is it a campaign to create a public facility that would serve as an elitist or more economically advantaged group of Tallahassee citizens more than any other. An arts district situated just south of the railroad tracks that have historically divided Tallahassee racially and economically would be a people's art district benefiting everyone. FSU and FAMU students, creatives of all sorts, theater goers and theater organizations, small business owners, entrepreneurs, families with children, as well as myriads of visitors and tourists to Tallahassee. And I agreed with Mark Hinson, who pointed out in a previous article that the disappearance of numerous Tallahassee venues that hosted performance, music, poetry, and much more has been rough on the arts, film, and music in Tallahassee.
Mr. McGill, could you please conclude your comments?
The reason I moved here are disappearing in front of my eyes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker.
That's all the speaker cards I have at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out and making your public comments. We'll next move to our consent agenda. We'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda, which basically just include the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Richardson and seconded by the mayor. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Were there any items pulled from consent? I hope not. Okay, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 7, both districts, policy formation and direction. Mr. Cox?
Yes, we're recommending a funding approval in the amount of $25,000 between both districts. So it'll be $12,500 for each district for a one-time commercial mural makeover. We have representatives from COCA here to give a presentation for you all.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, CAC Board. Kathleen Spihar with COCA, 914 Railroad Avenue.
Sam Jocelyn with COCA, 914
And we're really thrilled to share this new initiative with you this morning. This is going to help combat graffiti, reduce neighborhood blight, be another dynamic public art project, and align kind of with all these downtown and CRA district goals. So we've been really working closely with the CRA staff to develop this in the past several months, and and we are just thrilled to present this. So I'm going to turn this over to Sam Jocelyn, who's our Public Art and Exhibitions Manager, to go through the presentation with you.
Yep, so I am Sam Jocelyn. I am the Public Art and Exhibitions Manager with COCA. So the Council on Culture and Arts would like to partner with the CRA to provide custom murals to the exterior of some of Tallahassee's commercial properties. This would include nonprofits and small businesses in both downtown and the Greater Frenchtown Southside districts in order to abate and prevent graffiti and build neighborhood pride. We're specifically interested in collaborating with the CRA due to your relationships with various stakeholders in the community and your established rapport with these property owners and business owners, along with previous interest that we've had in this initiative from the property owners themselves. But our overall mission and vision for this project, it involves beautifying and revitalizing the downtown and GFS areas. Like I said, this would include businesses and nonprofits, through the use of accessible public art. Investing in local property, as we all know, and business owners is vital to the sustainability of Tallahassee culture. COCA, we're excited by the opportunity to become more involved in these efforts, specifically by bringing public art opportunities to the individuals who have already invested in the area themselves. So public art, specifically murals, they can significantly reduce instances of vandalism, and they've proven beneficial in reviving areas, attracting tourists, and fostering cultural hubs. Cities like Charleston, South Carolina, and in Pinellas County, they have programs just like this with the same mission, and it seems to go very well for them. I've talked with both of those cities. So throughout the past few months, we did open a call for interested property owners just to see if this was something people would be interested in within the GFS and downtown CRA districts. It was very brief. But we did receive 12 preliminary applications, which is very good for something that's brand new, that no one's ever heard of, but people were interested in it. So if approved today, we would reopen this application officially this month, hopefully, or early next month, so more property owners have the opportunity to apply and get more information from us, specifically from the downtown area, because we got mainly feedback from GFS the first time. But some of the interested property owners include the NAACP Tallahassee chapter, the Bond Community Health Center for Women and Children, Pat's Market, 1102 South Adams, and Amicus Brewing. Those are just a few that we received feedback from. In terms of funding, COCA, we were recently invited to apply for and received a $50,000 grant from the Knight Foundation through the Community Foundation of North Florida to pursue this project specifically. So this $50,000 grant would provide funding for 4 mid-sized murals for commercial properties within the downtown and Greater Frenchtown Southside area, so that would be 2 each. But today we are requesting essentially a 2-to-1 match for our grant from the CRA, contributed from both districts in order to expand the mural project from 4 locations to 6 locations. Funds would be used towards things like muralist fees, which would include materials and labor, artist design fees, and anti-graffiti top coat to ensure longevity, marketing and promotional materials, administrative services by COCA, and other incidentals that might pop up, like equipment rentals or additional labor that might be required. So additionally, $50,000 from the COCA grant, $12,500 from GFS, and $12,500 from downtown as a one-time request. And I've kind of laid out the budget template there, which I think you all have. In terms of timeline, like I said, in this month, hopefully, we would open a call for small businesses and nonprofits within both the CRA districts, and they would be launched so we could gather more additional properties. In February, final properties will be selected, and I will talk to you after this slide about how that would happen. In March, a call for artist requests for qualifications would open. So interested artists would submit their resume and portfolio. Applications would be reviewed by COCA, and 3 qualified muralists for each location would be invited to submit a design and paid for those designs that they submit. So then in April, the artist request for proposals would open. Like I said, invited finalists would each submit a design. So each location would then have 3 potential mural designs to choose from. COCA, we would work with a little bit the CRA staff and mainly the property owners, since they're the ones who it would be on their building, to review the designs and make final selections and also tweaks. So then in May, artist selections would be announced. In June, mural designs are finalized. Like I said, each design fee, that would allocate up to 2 revisions of the designs. And then hopefully in the summer, the murals would be installed. And then September, I would like to have like a grand opening and final mural walk for members of the community. So in terms of the review or advisory committee, to ensure equity, a review committee would be formed to review the applications from both property owners and mural artists. We do have some people that have said they're committed to be on this advisory committee. Latifa Muhammad from the CRA DRC, Roderick McQueen from GFS CAC, Lethea Edwards from the CAC. We're actually going to have Renee Williams from the COCA Board of Directors, and then I would also serve on as an advisory capacity. But that concludes my presentation, and now I can answer some questions if you have any.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Sam, great presentation. I am assuming we're using local artists?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent, fantastic. Mr. Norvell, is there anything legally that would prevent us from moving forward since COCA receives public funding from the city or the county?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent. All right, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved by the mayor and seconded by Commissioner Richardson that we move forward with the recommended action. Any further questions? Board Member Matlow?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No questions. I just wanted to thank you for the presentation and the effort securing the grant. You know, public art, while not expensive, has such a greater return than I think a lot of people recognize. I also wanted to highlight, I noticed in your presentation, the stipend to artists for submitting designs. You know, too often we see, you know, requests for designs where an artist is expected to propose something in some sort of contest or that sort of thing. But just being aware to make sure we're compensating artists for being engaged, I think is very, very thoughtful and great to see.
Board Member Porter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank COCA for your partnership and the work you do. I'm really excited to see this. I think it's a great collaboration between, of course, the CRA and COCA, but also local artists and businesses. And we all know the benefit of programs like this, and I hope that we can grow it. And do y'all have any ideas for, this is just one question, just I'm curious, any ideas for maybe what, if there's any interest in doing anything with the designs that aren't selected? Like, I don't mean murals, but somehow I just feel like if they're really cool, if there's like some other way that we can think creatively about maybe not bringing them to life as murals, but I don't know, the thought just occurred to me because I imagine there's going to be a lot of really cool designs, and if there's any way we can, whether it's working with, you know, art on the box or incorporating them in other ways or other areas, that might be cool.
Yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment, actually, and that is a very good idea. So I'll think about what we could do.
It's our 40th anniversary this year, so that would also be a really appropriate time to continue to take the local art, like Mayor Dahlia talked about, and make sure that it's getting out into the community. So, yeah, so we'll work on that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment? All in favor of the motion on the table, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimously agreed upon. And Kathleen, I'm asking you personally that you publicly say, talk about how we do support the arts, because I am on social media and I hear so much and I see so much about how we don't. So when we do, we at least need someone to say, that's not correct. They do support art. City, county, and CRA.
We'll make sure that this is shouted from the rafters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You don't have to go that high. Just put it in social media.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. All right, moving along to our next agenda item. Greater Frenchtown Southside District Policy Formation and Direction.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm waiting for the clicker for the, I have a presentation for you all.
Okay.
While we get the clicker, late last night, I did receive an email from Bruce Foster. He's founder of the Big Ben Group. I believe he is a realtor with Keller Williams. They notified me that they have placed an offer, a formal offer to the...
Why don't you go ahead and just read it?
Oh.
We have it in the record.
Okay. Director Cox, I have been retained to represent a group of investors interested in Railroad Square. As of this evening, I'm submitting a formal offer to the sellers of the appraised value of $6.4 million. My clients fully understand the significance of this property to the tenants and the broader arts community in Tallahassee. We envision redeveloping Railroad Square into a well-funded world-class art destination, transforming it into the key community asset for Tallahassee residents and visitors. Their plan includes the addition of apartments, commercial buildings, art galleries, and public spaces. Until we reach an agreement in terms of sale and execute a purchase and sales agreement, my clients prefer to remain confidential. Given the significance of this, given its significant publicly and media attention surrounding the sale of Railroad Square, they believe it is in their best interest of all parties to focus solely on the terms and conditions of the transaction rather than on individual stakeholders. Once the contract is signed, my clients would like to engage the CRA and other local governmental entities to explore opportunities for collaboration with tenants and community stakeholders. The goal is to ensure that the proposed vision for the property aligns with the broader community objectives and address any concerns. My clients are eager to work with all parties to unlock Railroad Square's full potential. So again, that was sent to me late last night. I did send an email to the K family to confirm if they had received anything. I received the email indicating that from Lily K, we are not entertaining that offer. The $6.4 million CRA ordered appraisal undervalues Railroad Square's property based on low market rental rates our families has accepted for decades, and not the actual highest and best use market value of the property based on what a buyer would actually be willing to pay, which is much higher. So that's what we received just a few minutes ago from the K family.
So, not to interrupt, but I received the email last night. Did the rest of the board members receive this email last night from the offer? I haven't checked to see, did Lily respond to all of us, or did she just respond to you?
No, she, I believe, responded to Commissioner Porter, and she emailed me so I could read it into the record.
Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify, I reached out to the Ks this morning and Mr. Cox to see if they had in fact received the offer, if they were considering it, and they would have reached out to all of us, but they thought the meeting was this afternoon, so they were working on a statement, and I forwarded that to Mr. Cox.
Well, thank you, but we'll move forward.
Okay. So again, presentation I have in front of you. I will go over what we have been tasked with doing. So again, this is for the consideration of the Railroad Square purchase. So again, we're looking at 6.8 acres. The K family is looking to sell portions of Railroad Square. Some of this has been triggered by the storm, the tornado that occurred on May 10th, and they received substantial damage to several buildings at that time. CRA has been tasked with doing some due diligence to determine what would be an appropriate value, what the ramifications for the CRA might be if we were to take on a project of this size. Again, just some key dates. So May 10th, at our October 17th meeting, CRA board approved for us to actually do the due diligence not to exceed $50,000. And then at our January 10th, we had a special CAC meeting to actually discuss those findings so that we could be able to tell you what the community felt leading into this meeting today. All right, so again, there's three options. Option A is everything that the K family is interested in selling, that's 6.8 acres. Option B, essentially the northern portion would be available to a developer, and then what would be left is in the yellow, which is around 2.4, I think 7 acres. And one of that includes a shared parking solution, which they would actually retain ownership of the land, but it would be a partnership where we would actually work with them to build a parking structure to accommodate all of the retail. And then option C, which essentially is, there's 4 buildings, but 3 parcels that we would be looking at, and that's around 1.6 acres. So again, on our due diligence, we looked at getting an appraisal, environmental assessment, structural engineering assessment. We looked at operating expenses, insurance costs, and then what kind of renovations may be needed to bring the buildings into compliance or bring them up to city code. So again, the current conditions of the buildings, some are in better shape than others. What we have heard from our consultants that have done some of the legwork is that it'll be upwards of $400,000 to bring the buildings up to, for deferred maintenance primarily, to just kind of bring them up to where we think they need to be. It was determined that building 650 would need to be demolished based on the deferred maintenance and the condition of the building. And so what would be available for sale would be just around 50,000 square feet to the CRA. As far as property management, we reached out to get an understanding of how much it would cost to hire somebody. Our staff is not equipped with doing property management. It would be around $60,000. Excuse me. The K family submitted information to us with what the rental rates are, and we determined that it's going to be between $55,000 and $60,000 a month is what they generate monthly, and then that means that they're just over $700,000 annually. That's when they're fully, when they have full tenants. Right now, there are some empty spaces, so they're not generating that much currently. Buildings would need to be repaired to actually ensure full capacity with tenants. It would cost us somewhere between $52,000 on the low end and $86,000 on the high end to actually hire a company to actually manage the property for us. Insurance, we're looking at around $40,000 to insure those properties, and that's kind of the base level, no frills, just some level of insurance. We've had trouble finding insurance brokers that actually want to take on a project like this because of the conditions of the buildings. If they were more traditional retail or office space, that's a totally different thing. Because these were originally warehouses, that does play a factor in their willingness to actually insure the property. So with our appraisal, we asked our appraiser to look at highest and best use as well as kind of the as-is version. So if we kept the buildings and the property is essentially the same, what the value would be. And what you see is option A. If we keep it as is, that price is $6.4 million. The highest and best use would be $10.4 million. Option B, 3.1 and 3.8 respectively, and then option C, a little over $2 million, and then 2.4 for highest and best use for the property that we showed in option C. So again, you know, there's a wide range in price. I believe from the statement, or not statement, excuse me, from the email from the K family, they are looking for highest and best use. They are not necessarily interested. and let me say, I don't want to put any words in their mouth, but I don't know if they would be interested in the as-is price. From conversations I've had with them previously before we got the appraisal. So those are the numbers. The impact to our budget, it would be very challenging for us to actually keep our obligations for the neighborhood first plans that we have, South City as well as Providence. If we take on this project as far as acquisition, I mean, right now we're around $6.5 million annually. We have, in this current fiscal year, we have about 1.5 that is unbudgeted. So, I mean, we could put that to some effort. But if the K family wants us to be anywhere near that $11 million range, it would require a substantial multi-year commitment. And right now we just don't have that capacity. But it would hamper our ability to actually put money towards those two Neighborhood First programs, at least for the next 5 or 6 years. So again, we do have concerns with our ability to actually pay for a project of this size. Again, because of those reasons, our recommendation is option 1. Again, option 5 was what the CAC recommended. So we would like to hear what your thoughts are, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. Board discussion. Board Member Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Cox, and all CRA staff and partners for this report and your work on this. I feel comfortable moving forward with option 5, given the unanimous recommendation of the CAC, and given that I'm curious to see what partnerships may arise. So I understand, based on previous meetings we've had, what I think the general will of the board is, and that there is an interest to purchase the property. But I'm interested to see what the Railroad Square revitalization cohort has in mind. And I think the CAC is too, clearly, by their recommendation, and I'm interested in learning more. So I would make the motion for option 5.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, for discussion, let's continue discussion. Board Member Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to everyone who's been organizing around this issue. I know it's challenging, and I want to thank the CAC for giving it thoughtful consideration of trying to craft a path forward. From the offer and the rejection of the offer, and a lot of the conversation I've been hearing, I don't want to feel like the future of the Arts District or the arts in the community is limited at how do we continue to have exactly what's at Railroad Square right now in the future. Because I don't think that's the reason the offer is being rejected, because it's based on current market rates, or current appraisal rates, which isn't really based on the market of highest and best use, as what's said. I know that there's a lot of interest in different entities coming to the table to look at different options for ownership, control, but I guess really what I'm looking for is like, what's the grander vision? What is Railroad Square 2.0? Like, what do we take to the community to sell them? We hear a lot of criticism that, oh, this is a bailout. I don't think it's a bailout at all, because the value of the property is true, just based on the offers that are coming in. But how do we take Railroad Square to the next level as the tourist destination that it's always been, but grow upon that? You know, we know, as a speaker mentioned earlier, areas that truly invest in the arts reap all kinds of rewards. I mean, not only reversing population decline, but people flock to cities that have strong arts communities because they want to live there. Companies flock to cities that have strong arts communities because they want to base there, because they know the workforce, they want their workforce to have a high quality of life, and they respect that, you know, the arts contributed to that. So I'm hoping, I support option 5, and I'm hoping as part of that, I guess I'm asking everybody to just dream a little bigger. Like, what is you know, we've had conversations about performing arts centers and all these things in the past, but how can we integrate and maintain what makes Railroad Square special, while also coming up with a proposal to make it something so much better than I think it's ever been. I saw, in nitpicking a little bit, but just on some of the proposals on the maps, I see, like, you know, shared parking in the back of the park. To me, it's like Railroad Square is great for walkability, and I think keeping traffic out of the park and really being a central place where people can have a safe pedestrian experience and appreciate the art should be valued as part of that conversation, and I think will help the area as a whole. So I'm glad that the CAC recommended an option. While the CRA won't purchase the property outright, to see what the community comes up with. Let's get a proposal that makes sense, that can be tolerable for everybody, and bring some more people to the table and see what we can get done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Board Member Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess the question that I have is, with item option number 5, where it says with the railroad, to not acquire any of the 6 acres from Railroad Square and work with the Railroad Square revitalization cohort to formulate a funding deal and return to the CRA with a proposal. Right. I'm not sure what that means.
That's right.
Madam Chair, if we're not buying any of the property, what are we funding, or what would we be funding? What would the revitalization cohort and CRA develop a funding deal for if it's not to purchase any of the 6.8 acres?
Mr. Cox, you want to respond to that?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. So from the CAC meeting, the discussion with the CAC committee was essentially, how can we work with the revitalization cohort? A lot of that is going to be their ability to find funding, regardless if it's private or a lending institution, but come up with a strategy for how they're going to manage the property, how they're going to acquire the property, what kind of renovations may be needed to actually get them going, and what that may look like, and then what level of assistance they may need from the CRA. So it almost is treated like one of our traditional applications. You know, they put their packet together of what they think they have, and if there's a gap, then they would come to the CRA saying, here's my gap. Is the CRA willing to help me fill that gap in order to achieve my goal? So again, you know, we're more than happy to work with them. We're not picking up the phone and calling a lender for them. They have to find those opportunities themselves, but we are definitely happy to help any way that we can. It's probably going to be a combination of both private investment, you know, and as well as some lenders, but there needs to be a plan to manage and operate the facility moving forward so that we know exactly, you know, it's what the community is looking for, is how it's going to be managed. Is it going to remain open and available for the community like it is now, or is that changing? So we really have an understanding of what we're agreeing to if we're willing to put money behind it. But we really want to know what they've been able to put together and formulate, and then bring that to us at that time. And once they do that, then we can take it to the CAC and then bring that to you all. Now, again, part of the conversation was, you know, we're time sensitive because we don't have any control over the owners selling it. So they have the cohort has, invested interest in figuring it out as quickly as possible so that they have a plan before the property is sold. And so, again, we are more than happy to work with them to see if they can formulate something.
So is there not a long-term obligation on the part of the CRA?
It would not be. That would be brought up at a later date and then determined at that point. So whatever the terms would be brought back to you all, and then you all would decide based on what the total plan is, what our level of contribution may be. That'll be brought to you at that time. It may be a one-time thing. It may be a longer-term thing, but that is something that we'd have to look at what they come up with and then bring that back to you at that time.
So how is that any different than how it always worked?
Right.
Is not. I mean, we would really do that with anybody that came to us. The CAC especially wanted us to work with them because they have been coming to the meetings trying to put something together. So we have, number 5 is working specifically with the cohort to actually help them. But we would do essentially the same thing for anybody that came to us with a project.
Okay. And then finally, Madam Chair, and I've mentioned this before, the executive director touched on it as well. We made a promise to several predominantly African-American neighborhoods in this city that we would invest in the redevelopment and revitalization of those neighborhoods. I'm not interested in anything that's going to take away from or preclude us from fulfilling those promises to the Providence and South City neighborhoods. So that's where I stand on this. I'm okay with exploring option 5, but the bottom line is anything that would preclude us from fulfilling our promise to those neighborhoods that have been neglected for years in this community, I would not be interested in. But I could be okay with option 5 and see what's brought back to us, but I've stated my bottom line in terms of what I would be willing to support. Thank you.
Mayor?
Excellent. First of all, I want to recognize Dr. Freddie Kay, who's in the room, who I have the utmost respect for, and a good friend of the family. It's good to see you. But we are not dealing with Dr. Freddie Kay. We are dealing with family members on this particular item, but it is good to see you regardless. I have a very a stronger opinion on this. I'm going to make a substitute motion at the end that I hope that you will consider as well. Quite frankly, first and foremost, I'm a little disappointed that Mr. and Mrs. Kay are not here. This is the 3rd meeting on this. Mr. Kay has not attended a single one of the public meetings while asking for over $10 million from this body for acquisition at highest and best use. And I do not take an excuse of we thought the meeting was in the afternoon. This meeting has been publicly noticed for well over a week, and the schedule has been set far in advance. I would expect that an acquisition cost of this much that is being requested, that we could at least have one-on-one dialogue during the meeting for the record. That is not available to us right now. I was excited to see the offer that came through via email last night that we all received. Currently speaking, Railroad Square is privately owned and has an incredible set of cohorts and artists out there that help run the day-to-day operations. It's an incredible relationship that we have right now. What is formally on the table that was read into the record is another private entity that is saying, we want to step up to the plate, we want to buy it, we want to invest, and in their words, I believe they used the term world-class, build a world-class arts park. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that they mentioned on the record in the email, and we want to work with the cohorts and the artist community to move forward. It is the next level of exactly what we have. Private ownership with a collaborative effort to move forward. The difference is they have stated they want to build the world-class facility that we're all looking for. To me, that is extremely exciting, and that is the direction that we need to go. I am disappointed, and I will wait to hear more from Mr. and Mrs. Kay on exactly why they will not even entertain this offer. Because if it comes down to money, I think we're showing true colors. You have an offer for the appraised value. And by the way, when the government goes out, we're not just hiring somebody off the street. These are qualified appraisers that have been in the industry for a long time, and they do great work. And they came, Dr. K, not right. What we do is we go out, and there are different levels. Yes, there's highest and best use, and there's current use, all right? And the current use appraisal came back at 6.5, and I believe that's what they are offering to acquire it for. If the legacy of the arts park is the most important thing, I hope that Mr. and Mrs. K will consider this offer on the table, be able to hand off this legacy and let a new private developer take it to the next level in conjunction with the cohorts. If they are simply rejecting because of a $4 million difference, that sends a clear message to me that it's not necessarily about the arts district, it's about the money. Because we could have a scenario where you do have a student housing developer that wants to come in. They'll pay $10.5 million for highest and best use, and you're going to get student housing. Or you've got a solid offer for the appraised value with a commitment publicly on the record to work with the arts community to build a world-class facility. $4 million difference. The ball is in the K family's court. What are they going to do? That is not a decision for the CRA. That is the decision for the property owners to make. And I hope that they will give this serious consideration, along with all offers that come to the table. But what we know is no matter how many offers are out there, we know there is a public offer and a public commitment to the arts community, a public commitment to work with the CRA as well. I do envision a relationship between a new owner, the cohorts, and the CRA moving forward. But that decision is not to be made today. That decision has to be made by the Ks first and foremost.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. We're having
So at this point,
discussion.
I'm going to make a substitute motion for option number 1. It is too early to formally tie the hands of staff in a commitment to come to the table with offers. I'm going to leave the door open, and I look forward. Look, anybody can bring a proposal to the CRA or the city at any time. You don't need a motion to ensure that. What I am saying in the motion I'm making is not different than the motion that's on the table, except for the motion on the table, the original motion, formally ties us through staff time. I'm not willing to make that commitment. But I am hoping that there is a real estate transaction that goes through. And I'm hoping that the new owners that buy it are truly committed to the arts, as it's been stated with this one particular offer. And then the cohorts have the opportunity to work with this new entity, figure it out, put it on paper, then come back. That is what I'm interested in. I am making a separate substitute motion for option number 1. Do not acquire any of the 6.8 acres, option A, from Railroad Square.
And I'm going to second that motion, and I'm going to add to that and say that option number 1 is not different from option number 5, with the exception that there's the conjunctive word "and." But as Mr. Cox just said, they would do that for anyone.
Sure.
So basically what we're saying is come back. Absolutely. Our CRA, this is what they do. They work with any and everybody. So you don't have to commit them to working with the cohort. They will work with you when you come back with the proposal like we do with any and everybody else. And it's very important to me that we send a clear message, because there are others in our community who will come before the CRA board looking for support, financial support. And we've got to be consistent, and we've got to be clear on how we deal with these issues. I, too, am very disappointed that the Ks not only have not shown up, but took the time to email one board member when they could have very easily have emailed all of us, because the offer on the table came to all of us last night. So to me, there's no excuse. You all knew that the meeting was this morning. Why did they not know the meeting was this morning? You have known every time what time the meeting was, and you've shown up every time, but they haven't. I met with Adam months ago, and he warned me that you all were coming, but he never came. But he told me y'all were coming, and you came, and he hasn't yet. And that to me is just surprising. But, and to be honest with you, you know, I'm trying to control what I say because I'm tired of this going back and forth. I'm tired of them yo-yoing you all around about there's an offer on the table and they're gonna do this and they're threatening to do this and threatening to do that. And you all are out there doing your level best to try to save your business and your interest and your passion while they're sitting back watching you, you know, struggle to try to find a place to continue your passion. But then they're not meeting you at the table. We expend dollars to do a feasibility study. We bring people to a special meeting during the holidays. Our staff is on, you know, at the ready to do whatever is needed. An offer comes because they know that we're meeting this morning. And community folks are trying to help us save this area. And then my heart just dropped when I heard that they refused this offer. They're not even entertaining it.
Not even entertaining.
So I'm at option one myself, because at some point we've got to stop this, get off this merry-go-round and figure out how we're going to move forward with people who are serious about maintaining an arts culture in our community. So Cohort, I wholeheartedly support you in trying to find funding to appease the Ks so that you can remain where you are. But apparently, it's a one-sided relationship. And at this point, I no longer want to be a part of this triangle. So I'm stepping off, and I'm going to support, do not acquire any of the 6.8 acres, option A from Railroad Square. But just know, Cohort, we don't have to include in the motion that our staff will work with you. Yeah. They will work with you like they work with everybody else. So be assured that you have the support of the staff to help you when you bring something forward. So as Mr. Cox said, they're not, of course, you're not asking them to do this. He's not going to make any calls to any lenders or anything like that. But they're going to tell you what you need, and when you bring it back, they're going to let you know whether it meets the criteria that needs to be met by law. So having said that, well, we ready to vote. Board Member Matlow.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to clarify a few things on just commercial real estate in general and value. You know, we know that Gain Street, Railroad Square, that whole area of town has undergone a tremendous amount of redevelopment. We know that has pushed property values to levels that are unattainable by most local industries. I mean, the city knows particularly it sold a property on Gain Street for $4 million, way in excess of what the...
That's the city. The city has a bigger budget. The city has a bigger budget. Don't put misinformation in the air.
Are we all going to correct each other all the time then like this?
It's not
okay, as the chair, please complete your comments, but don't misinform the public and don't bring the city into this because there's already confusion out there about what the city is doing and what CRA is doing. That's all I'm asking.
Hear his point.
Board Member Porter, you're out of order.
Ma'am.
Okay.
So, to my point, the value of land to somebody who wants to build something highest and best use far exceeds what end-use value is. The proposal, I believe, that was received wasn't asking to purchase the property to keep it as is. It was asking to purchase the property to build developments at a higher use. So I think a layperson would say the rejection is based on the intent of the property and the amount offered. So I would say, I think highest and best use is probably not what many of us want to see, because I think highest and best use is probably student housing over the entirety of it. I think that would be to maximize profits. The question is there ability to find a fair price at a discount from highest and best use that can maintain an art district with public support? Nothing obligates a private property owner to sell us something at an extreme discount, but as a government, we have a decision to make of what's the value to the city and the community as a whole to continue to have an arts district. So it's a little disingenuous to get caught up in the price. And back to my comments earlier, you know, I don't want to be talking about numbers. I don't want to be talking about the Ks. I don't want to be talking about an offer. I want to be talking about what's the future of the art district in Tallahassee? What does that look like? Let's all collaborate together and bring the partners to the table and make it happen. Because, you know, while y'all are squabbling, like, we're going to lose a valuable community asset. And, you know, I'm not going to get into, personal animosities, all that aside. It's just what's at stake for our community. And that's the question. So I think, you know, we can't force the private sector's hand on any purchase, sale, but can we create something that works for all parties, that works for our community, that works for existing artists, and brings a deal together. So I think what option 5 did is just that. It's not acquiring the property. It's not us trying to interfere in what the private sector does. It doesn't limit the K's ability to go sell it to somebody else if that's what they choose to do. But it shows that the CRA is a open and willing partner to come to the table. And if a deal comes together with an ask, maybe it's a few percent. Maybe it's just enough to get a private lender to assist the artists that are already there to come to a deal. Maybe there's private fundraising and philanthropy that comes into it. But it gives our staff the direction that say, yes, we do value this. We do want to keep it. We're not going to spend $10 million in CRA money. But if, as Mr. Cox said, he's not going to be calling the banks for a private entity. But it is sending our staff a signal, and we know this. If we tell our staff we're kind of interested in it, that they can be a little more helpful. If we send a sign that we're not interested in it at all, which I believe is what option 1 is doing, it's going to be put on the back burner. So again, it's just a question of, do we care enough to let our community come together and try to come up with a proposal? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Matlow. Mayor, you want?
Ready to vote?
Okay.
I'm available for any questions.
You are out of order. You are out of order. Your time to speak has been expired. And don't come in here declaring you're ready to speak. This is not about you. This is about our community. Board Member Porter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with Commissioner Matlow's comments. And I just want to remind us that, well, one, I want to say that I value staff's time, and I know they've got a lot of work that they are doing. And while I don't believe the role of citizen advisory groups is to tie our hands, I also take seriously their recommendations when they make them. And so I just want to remind us of that was their recommendation, and that they worked with not only the cohorts, but other community members who've been coming to those meetings. Those meetings went very long, and I take that seriously. And so I just want to remind us of that, because I don't think it does us any harm to make that, to give that signal and that commitment to work with them. And it doesn't tie us to that. It doesn't commit us to anything. It doesn't stop other people from working with us to make other offers. And so I just want to remind us of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And what I would want to say is I don't want, I'm going to go with the recommendation of option 5. But what I don't want is for this project to appear that it is taking a top priority over any and all other things that staff is committed to do. So whatever time and effort they're able to give to this, fine, but it doesn't rise to the top and everything else is put on the back burner. And I hope that understanding is clear. But I'm willing to have staff work with them in whatever way they can, while at the same time still fulfilling all of their obligations to the many other tasks that the CRA is responsible for.
Thank you, Board Member Richardson. Mayor.
Okay, for the sake of brevity, it looks like the majority supports number 5. I will not be supporting number 5, but for the sake of the institution, I'll withdraw my substitute motion. Let's just go straight to the original motion on the table. I still think that there's also questions of funding, point blank, at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
I am concerned that we are sending the wrong message, that we have a pot of money that can be moving forward with some type of a joint deal. I am concerned that we're asking the arts community to go and seek debt, possibly, as part of a deal, when I think there are legitimate offers that are currently on the table that need serious consideration. So I will respectfully pull my substitute motion, and we can go ahead and.
And I withdraw. I withdraw my second. Although I would still say that I still feel very strongly that where we are, where we're going, is the same place. I don't want others who are watching to think that we're giving anyone any special favors by including it in a motion that they will work with. We work with everybody, and this has become so squishy, and so we're tipping around something when we just need to deal with it.
That's right.
We just need to deal with it and move forward. But if that is the will of this board, that we adopt the recommendation from the CAC and ignore the recommendation from staff, because that's what we're doing. We're now saying to staff has recommended that we choose option 1.
Right.
And they've been there just as long as anybody else.
That's right.
But we're saying ignore staff. Let's go with CAC and have our staffers wait for proposals like they do with everybody else, which to me is redundant. But if that's where we are, that is where we are. So any further comments? All right, hearing no further comment, let's call the vote on the recommended option for option 5. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Nay. Yeah, nay. So it carries 3-2. I just say to these devoted citizens who are pursuing their passion, Godspeed, and hopefully you'll find someone who will work with you to help you to continue to be the light in our community, for the art community, and for the many who will come behind you. It is unfortunate that you have had to put your paintbrushes down, your scripts down, to come down here repeatedly to try to save a district that is owned by someone who refused an offer to do that. So, Godspeed.
Get me out of your politics.
Goodness.
Could someone please get security? Thank you. Okay.
Interesting. Leave out of the policy.
Do we have any other information or any other business before the board? We have any non-agenda item speakers?
No, I have no speaker cards at this time.
Okay, do we have any other board information or sharing of ideas from board members? Board Member Porter.
Thank you. I just have one thing. I just feel like I need to comment on what was said about what people post on social media. You know, the public is going to express themselves. I do believe this city, including its artists and all members, are grateful for what the city does and the way that we support the arts. And I think what that tells me is that they want to see more of that support. And it's just chilling to me to hear what sounded kind of intimidating and threatening, to suggest that, you shouldn't be critical, people shouldn't be critical, tell them not to be, what they post on social media. I just think that's really inappropriate, especially given the position we're in. And I felt like I needed to say something about it.
Well, thank you, and let me respond to that. I'm sorry you feel that way. That was not my intention. And we do contribute very much to the arts. As you recall, just a couple of years ago, we amended our budget to add somewhere in excess of $300,000 for COCA, and it was a unanimous vote. But then, and then this was at City Commission when we were in our budget talks. But then the overall budget, after being added to the budget, overall budget passed on a 3-2 vote. So I'm just saying.
My comments have nothing to do with that.
I'm speaking, Board Member Porter, you're out of order. So I am free to say what I like to say. I'm a voting citizen in this community as well. So I just asked the executive director to correct the record because of what is being said out there about we're not supporting the arts. And we do. We support COCA. As a matter of fact, Board Member Matlow sits on the COCA board, and we do provide funding. Now, of course, we can't provide complete funding, but we provide a lot of funding for COCA, and I wanted to make sure that the executive director would speak on that. So I said what I said, and I meant what I said, and if it was not said in an intimidating way, Kathleen and I have a relationship, so if she felt that way, I'm sure she'd let me know. That was not my intent. Is there any other information to share with the board?
Madam Chair, may I reply?
No, ma'am, we're going to end this meeting. You're out of order. Any further comments? Any other business to come before this board? Okay, meeting's adjourned.